Hello, thanks for watching section 7.4, the percent equation. I'm going to start out just by showing you where the percent equation came from. We know that from our percent proportion that the part over the whole equals the percent, and normally we would write it as part over whole equals the percent number over 100. Okay, and we know that that percent number with the percent sign by itself, this whole thing represents the percent. So we have part over whole equals percent. Okay, so to get the percent equation, you multiply both sides by the whole. And we know if you do the same thing to the both sides that it keeps it equal. And when I multiply by whole on both sides, I can cancel out the whole here. So you end up with part equaling percent times the whole. Okay, this is your percent equation. So part equals percent times whole. Okay, and sometimes they'll call that base. Part equals percent times base. It's the same thing. The whole represents the whole part. Okay, we already have talked about how the part and the whole can be identified, as the part is referred to as the is, and the whole is referred to as the of within the problem. Okay, so later on we'll allow you to either use the percent equation or the percent proportion. It's going to be up to you. But for today, we want you to work on understanding the percent equation. And we also know that if we have our percent and we're going to use it within a problem, and we're not writing as a fraction like we did here, then you need to write the percent as a decimal. Okay, so that's something to remember and make sure that you do for every single problem as well. Okay, and since your percent is out of 100, you can easily change your percent to a decimal just by dividing by 100. Okay, so if that makes you feel more comfortable, then go ahead and do that. All right? So we're going to write an equation for each problem, then solve and round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So if you don't already have a calculator out, please get one out. You're going to need it through this section. Okay, I'm going to write up here what our percent equation is, and that is part equals percent times the whole. Okay, so what is 6% of 150? Well, we know this is our percent. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and write that as a decimal. So 6% is 0.06 of 150, which represents the whole. So in this case, we are solving for the part. Okay, within this problem, it's very easy to solve because I'm just solving for the part. So I can take 0.06 times 150 on my calculator, and the part, or P, would equal 9. So what is 6% of 150? 6% of 150 is 9. Okay? So it says find 72% of 90. So once again, I'm solving for the part because I have the whole here, and I also have the percent. So 72% as a decimal is 0.72 times 90. And once again, I am solving for the part. Okay, so on my calculator, I'm going to plug in 0.72 times 90, which is 64.8. And since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, we already know we're good, unless my pen doesn't work. And 64.8 is the part. So what is, or find 72% of 90? 72% of 90 would be 64.8. Okay. Also, make sure you're thinking about these. 72% we know is greater than half. Half of 90 is 45. So we know it's going to be greater than 45. So it needs to be between 45 and 90 when you're thinking of your percent. Okay, so keep those mental math abilities working throughout these problems to make sure you're plugging in your numbers correctly and changing your percents correctly to the right decimal. 35 is what percent of 90? So this time we're solving for the percent. We're going to call our percent x. So 35 is, this is my part. What percent of 90? This is the whole. So within the equation, remember it's part equals percent times whole. I'm going to set up my equation. So the part is 35 equals x times the whole, which is 90. Now this is a multiplication problem here, so we're going to undo the multiplication, my goodness, by dividing both sides by 90. see if I can get this to work a little better here. Sorry about that. Here we go. Okay, so x would equal 35 divided by 90, which is 0.3888, on and on and on and on. Okay, now your percent is going to come out as a decimal. So I need to change that to an actual percent. So before I round anything to the nearest tenth, I'm going to change this percent. Okay, so I'm going to go back 2 places, and I get 38.88 ... percent is my x. I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, so I have an 8. I look back at the 8, and it's going to become a 9. I'm rounding up. So my x equals 38.9%. Okay, so remember when you solve for your percent, it's going to come out originally as a decimal, because that's how I plug it into the percent equation. And then you change that to a percent before you round to the nearest tenth. Okay, 27 is, this is my part, what percent of, this is my whole, 150. So I have 27 equals x times 150. So once again, because I'm solving for x, I'm going to divide both sides by 150. Apologize for my pen here, guys. It's just not working right. There we go. Okay, so I know this is going to cancel. I'm left with x. 27 divided by 150 is 0.18. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and change this to my percent, because right now it's a decimal. So I move that decimal back 2 places, and I get 18%. Once again, moving it back 2 places represents that I'm multiplying by 100. So my percent is 18%. Very important to remember to change your percent actually to a percent from a decimal. Okay, 39 is 84% of what number? So this is my part. This is obviously my percent, and I'm trying to find the whole. So I have 39 equals 84%, and we know we need to change our percents to decimals, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, which is 0.84 times x. So once again, I'm solving for that number, that whole. So because I'm solving an equation, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.84 to get x by itself. I'm solving for x. So that cancels, and I'm left with x. In my calculator, I'm going to plug in 39 divided by 0.84, and I get 46.428. It keeps going on and on and on. Once again, let me see if I can fix my pen. 46.828. Oh, that's not even right. 428. Okay, because in the directions it tells me to round to the nearest tenth. I'm going to underline the 4 and look back at the 2. I know I'm going to keep that the same, so my answer is 46.4. This is my whole, so I do not need to change this to a percent. It doesn't represent a percent, it represents an actual number. So I'm done. Okay, only time you're moving the decimal points is when you're changing it back to a percent. And our last one, 24 is 32% of what number? So here's my percent. 24 is the part, and I'm trying to find the whole. I don't know what the whole is. So 32% is 0.32 times the whole, which I don't know, equals the part, which is 24. All right, this isn't cooperating, so I'm going to move it over here. 24 equals 0.32 times x. So I have my part, my decimal, or my percent, which is written as a decimal, and I'm trying to find the whole. So I'm going to divide both sides by 32 hundredths, so I can get x by itself. So in my calculator, I'm going to punch 24 divided by 0.32, and you get 75. Okay, so 24 is 32% of what number? And that number is 75. X equals 75. Okay, because I'm finding the whole and I'm finding 32% of that number to be 24, remember that that number should be larger. Okay, so depending on what you're finding it of or what you're finding it for, they should be larger or smaller according to what the percent is. Okay. As always, if you have questions about how to set these up, you can watch it again tomorrow when Mr. Kohlinger and I teach it. If you have questions, make sure you ask. Remember, you're using your percent equation now, so you have to write your equation. This is my equation, and then find your answer, solving using properties of equality rules. Okay? The rule is to always make sure you change that percent. Back here. I went the wrong way. Change that percent to a decimal. So it's the part times the percent as a decimal times the whole. Okay? As always, thanks for watching. As you go through the homework in class, you're more than welcome to ask questions as well. So if you get stuck. So as always, we appreciate watching. Thank you.